Just stand up, stop faking it. That's what my husband said while I was lying face down on our driveway. The concrete was hot against my cheek. I could smell gasoline, summer dust, and the sweet, smoky glaze from the ribs that had just exploded out of my hands. I couldn't feel my legs, not weak, not shaky. Gone, enjoy watching, he muttered under his breath, low enough that it sounded almost like a joke. Almost. There were 15 people in our backyard. Music was still playing, someone laughed. Not realizing the sound had nothing to do with me, I tried to push myself up, nothing happened. My legs, I said, my voice sounded thin, I can't feel them. He didn't kneel, he didn't touch me, he looked annoyed. You're not doing this today, he said, not in front of everyone. His mother, who had spent 3 days turning our yard into something that belonged in a lifestyle magazine, stepped closer. Her sandals clicked on the concrete. She's always dramatic when the attention isn't on her, she said calmly. I tried to move my toes, nothing. The platter had shattered beside me. Sauce was soaking into my hair. My arms were trembling from holding myself up, but below my waist, there was just silence. Like someone had unplugged me. A coworker of his took a step forward. I saw it from the corner of my eye. My husband lifted a hand slightly, not aggressively, just enough. She does this, he told them. Give her a minute. And that was the moment that scared me more than the paralysis. Not that I couldn't move, but that he wasn't surprised, he wasn't panicked, he wasn't confused, he looked inconvenienced. Like I had missed my cue. I tried again. I focused everything I had on my right foot. Move, nothing. The sun was burning the back of my neck. My breathing started to quicken, and for a second I thought maybe this really was in my head. Maybe I had imagined months of tingling, months of heaviness. The way my knees had buckled twice before in private where no one could see. But my body doesn't fake terror. And this was terror. Call 911, someone finally whispered. My husband sighed. For God's sake, he walked back toward the grill. That's what I remember most clearly. Not the sirens. Not the flashing lights. Not the paramedic kneeling beside me minutes later. I remember him turning his back on me. Like this was something temporary. Like this was something scheduled. And as I lay there staring at the sky, unable to move, one thought pushed through the panic, quiet and sharp. He thought I had more time, and whatever plan he had for me, I had just ruined it. The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the noise of the party vanished. Inside, it was cold and bright. The paramedic pressed something sharp against my foot. Can you feel this? No. She pressed harder, still no. When did the numbness start? She asked me. Today, my husband cut in from the corner. The paramedic ignored him. When did the symptoms start? She asked me again. Months. I whispered. 5, maybe 6. My husband sighed loudly. She's been stressed. She reads things online. Convinces herself something's wrong. The paramedic finally looked at him. Her gaze measuring. I told her about the tingling, the fatigue. How my husband started making my tea every night. A new, bitter-tasting brand. At the hospital, they separated us. He didn't protest. Hours later, a doctor looked at my labs. Has she been exposed to any industrial chemicals? My husband's denial was too fast. The doctor nodded, because her blood shows elevated levels of something that doesn't belong there. My husband went completely still, and I knew the fear wasn't about my legs anymore. It was about him. They didn't let him answer any more questions after that. A nurse stepped in and asked him to wait outside while they completed assessment. He didn't argue. He just gave me a look. It wasn't loving, it wasn't worried, it was calculating. The doctor pulled the curtain closed. Mrs. Calder, he said gently, I need to ask you something directly. Has anyone been preparing your food or drinks consistently over the last several months? My husband, I said. My mouth felt dry. He makes my tea every night. The doctor exchanged a glance with someone behind him. A toxicology consult had already been called. We're expanding the panel, he said. There's a compound in your bloodstream that isn't naturally occurring. The levels suggest repeated exposure. Exposure to what? He hesitated just long enough for me to know I wouldn't like the answer. An industrial solvent. I blinked. That doesn't make sense. It's sometimes found in degreasers, paint removers, certain auto distribution facilities use it. My husband works in supply logistics for a regional auto parts warehouse. I didn't say that out loud. I didn't have to. The room went very quiet. The neurologist came in shortly after. She explained the MRI showed progressive nerve damage consistent with toxic ingestion over time. Not a single event. Time. Months. 5 or 6. The same length of time I'd been drinking that tea. My brain tried to reject it, tried to replace it with something less impossible. Contamination, storage error, work accident, but the doctor kept using the same word, intentional levels. The police arrived before midnight, a female detective, calm, direct, no theatrics. She asked. When the symptoms began, she asked who handled my meals. She asked about insurance policies. Insurance policies. My stomach turned. 7 months ago, my husband insisted we update our financial paperwork. Just being responsible. He'd said. I never followed up. The detective didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse, she just told me they'd be requesting a warrant for the house as my husband. Under arrest, I asked. Not yet, she said, but we're moving quickly. Around 1:30 a.m., my husband came back into the room. No one had told him what they found. He walked in cautiously. What's going on? He asked. The detective stood up. She didn't answer him directly. Instead, she said, Sir, we need you to come with us. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look confused. He looked irritated. Like this was premature. Like something had happened too soon. And as they placed handcuffs on him in a quiet hospital hallway, he finally looked at me, not with regret, not with guilt, but with something else, disappointment. Because whatever timeline he had in his head, I had collapsed ahead of schedule, and now his plan was unraveling before he was ready for it too. They searched the house before sunrise. Inside was a life insurance policy. On me, $500,000. Issued 7 months ago. No medical exam required. My signature was on the bottom. Except it wasn't mine. The detective laid a photocopy on the hospital tray table in front of me. I stared at the name that looked like mine but felt like someone else's handwriting pretending to be me. Premiums were paid through a separate credit card, she said. One you're not listed on. That explained the missing money. The unexplained withdrawals. The tension in his voice when I asked about finances a few months back. But there was more, an apartment lease. 38 minutes away. A 1-bedroom unit rented under his name starting 5 months ago. The same month my legs first tingled. The same month he started making my tea every night without fail. He wasn't just planning for my death. He was preparing for his life after it. New address. Insurance payout. A grieving husband narrative ready to go. The detective watched my face carefully. I need to ask you something, she said. Did anyone else know about your symptoms? Or discuss them with him? I thought about his mother. The way she'd looked at me on the driveway. The way she'd said I was dramatic. She knew I wasn't feeling well, I said slowly. The detective nodded once. We've recovered text messages. She didn't read them immediately. She waited. She mentioned you were getting suspicious. Asked if you'd scheduled any doctor appointments. My throat tightened. She told him to keep things steady until after Saturday. The party. My collapse. I felt cold. Not shocked, just clear. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't anger. This was patience, months of patience, small doses, small withdrawals. Small lies repeated until everyone around me believed I was unstable. Gaslighting wasn't a side effect, it was part of the plan. Make me unreliable, make my symptoms invisible, make my collapse believable as hysteria. If I had died slowly in that house, they would have called it stress. They would have called it autoimmune. They would have called it tragic. But not criminal. The detective closed the folder gently. He's being formally charged this afternoon, she said. Attempted murder. Insurance fraud. Forgery attempted. The word echoed. He hadn't finished. That's why he was irritated. That's why he wasn't surprised. because I had collapsed too soon, and now, instead of planning a funeral, he was waiting for arraignment, and the part that unsettled me most wasn't that he had tried to kill me. It was how calmly he had waited for it to work. They arrested him at work, no dramatic chase, no shouting, just two officers walking him out past the same co-workers he used to joke with about my mystery illness. I watched the footage later. His face didn't show panic, it showed irritation, like someone inconvenienced. At the arraignment, he finally looked at me, not with guilt, not even with fear, with calculation, like he was still trying to figure out how to fix it. The prosecutor didn't waste time. They laid it out piece by piece. The solvent withdrawals, the forged insurance policy, the apartment lease, the text messages with his mother. Then came the lab results. Toxicology confirmed chronic exposure consistent with repeated low-dose ingestion, not accidental, not environmental, intentional. His attorney tried the obvious angle. She has a history of anxiety. She frequently researched illnesses online. She may have contaminated herself unintentionally. I almost laughed, because that was the exact script I'd heard in my own kitchen for months. But then the prosecution played something no one expected. A voicemail, his voice, calm, detached. "It'll look natural if we just wait. She's already weak." Silence in the courtroom, you could feel the air change. Even his mother stopped pretending. She stared straight ahead, hands clenched so tight her knuckles blanched. That voicemail wasn't meant for me. It was sent to her, recovered from her phone, deleted but not erased. He finally looked scared, not because of me, because the plan had slipped, because patience had failed him. The judge denied bail, flight risk, danger to the victim. That word hit differently, victim. For months, I had been told I was dramatic, unstable, imagining symptoms. Now it was official. He was remanded into custody pending trial, and suddenly, I wasn't the weak one anymore. The house felt different when I returned, not haunted, just empty. The tea kettle still sat on the stove. I threw it out. I replaced every cup, every utensil, every memory that felt contaminated. Recovery was slow. Physical therapy helped. My strength returned inch by inch, but something else changed too: clarity. The detective visited once more before trial. "There's something you should know," she said. Carefully, he increased the dosage the week before the party. I felt my stomach tighten. "Why?" She hesitated. "Because the insurance policy matured that Friday, the day before I collapsed. He had timed it, timed me. If I had made it through the weekend, I wouldn't be here." The trial was set for 3 months later. He took a plea deal, 22 years, no public testimony required from me. He didn't want a trial, didn't want everything read aloud, didn't want the world hearing how methodical he had been. His mother was charged separately for conspiracy and obstruction. She got 5. When the sentencing ended, he asked to speak. He didn't apologize. He said one sentence: "You weren't supposed to survive." I met his eyes. Calm, I know. And that's when I realized something. He had spent months planning my death, but he had never once planned for my survival, and that mistake was the only reason I'm still here. The house sold faster than I expected. Turns out, fresh paint and the absence of attempted murder makes real estate surprisingly appealing. I didn't fight to keep it. Too many ghosts. Too many evenings where I sat at that kitchen table sipping something I trusted. I moved into a small apartment across town. Neutral walls. New furniture. No shared history. The first night there, I made my own tea. I stood in the kitchen holding the mug for a long time before taking a sip. My hands didn't shake. That felt like progress. Physically, I was stronger. The neurologist confirmed the nerve damage wasn't permanent. "You were lucky," he said. Lucky. It's a strange word. Lucky would have been never marrying him. Lucky would have been noticing sooner. But I understood what he meant. Another month, maybe 2, different outcome. The insurance company contacted me next. They were apologetic. Apparently, attempted murder voids a policy payout. Technicalities. The forged signature triggered a deeper investigation. Fraud departments move quickly when $500,000 is involved. I didn't have to fight that battle. For once, something worked in my favor. People reacted differently once everything became public. Some neighbors avoided eye contact. Others brought casseroles and questions. The casseroles stopped after week 2, the questions never really did. "Did you see signs? Was he always like that?" How could someone live with you? And plan that one always carried a subtle edge, like survival required explanation, like I had missed something obvious. But predators don't look like predators when they're smiling across a dinner table. They look like husbands making tea. They look like men who remember your favorite movie. They look patient. The hardest part wasn't rebuilding my body, it was untangling my mind from his voice. You're overreacting. You're imagining it. You're just stressed. Gaslighting doesn't disappear when the person does. It lingers. I started therapy, not because I felt broken, because I refused to carry his narrative inside my head any longer. One afternoon, months later, I received a letter from prison. No return name needed. I recognized the handwriting immediately. I didn't open it. I held it over the kitchen sink, and I burned it. I didn't need closure from someone who calculated my expiration date. The detective called once more near the end of the year. His mother had appealed, denied, case closed. That should have felt like an ending. But survival isn't a single moment, it's a series of small choices: drinking the tea anyway, sleeping through the night without checking the locks 3 times, letting people stand close without wondering what they want. The strangest part, I don't think about him every day anymore. Some mornings, I wake up and the first thing on my mind isn't what almost happened. It's something simple like sunlight through the blinds, or the sound of my own breathing, steady, unpoisoned. He once told someone I wasn't supposed to survive. But survival isn't passive, it's stubborn, and I've become very, very stubborn. The first time I saw him again was by accident. Not in person. On a news segment. Local man begins serving sentence in high-profile poisoning case. They used an old photo. The one where he's smiling. That used to be my favorite picture of us. Now it looked staged. Like a mask I had once admired. I turned the TV off. I didn't need reminders. But reminders have a way of finding you anyway. A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at a small community safety event. The detective had quietly suggested my name. Only if you want to, she'd said. No pressure. For a long time, I didn't. Telling this story felt like reopening something that had finally scarred over. But then I remembered the version of me sitting in that hospital bed, wondering if I was losing my mind. If even one person in that room felt that way, maybe it mattered. The night of the event, my hands were steadier than I expected. I didn't dramatize it. Didn't embellish. I just told the truth. How slow it was. How subtle. How easy it is to doubt yourself when the person harming you is also the one tucking you into bed. The room was quiet in a different way than the courtroom had been. Not tense. Listening. Afterward, a woman approached me, mid-30s, soft voice. She didn't say much. Just, I thought I was imagining things too. That was the moment I understood something important. What he tried to take wasn't just my life. It was my credibility, my grip on reality, my confidence in my own body. And standing there speaking clearly, steadily was the exact opposite of what he had planned. I started volunteering after that, nothing dramatic. Just sitting with people who were untangling their own confusion, helping them recognize patterns, helping them trust their instincts. It turns out surviving something like that gives you a kind of radar. You hear the hesitation in someone's voice. You recognize the script. He says I'm overreacting. He says it's stress. He says I'm too sensitive. I never tell them what to do. I just tell them what I learned. Confusion that persists isn't random, and your body usually knows. Before your brain catches up, on the 1-year anniversary of my collapse, I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger. I felt distance, like looking at an old photograph from someone else's life. I walked to a cafe that morning, ordered tea, sat by the window, took a slow sip. It tasted normal. That felt extraordinary. People sometimes ask if I hate him. I don't. Hate requires energy. And I've decided to spend mine differently. He planned meticulously, calculated dosages, mapped timelines, secured policies. He thought control meant victory. He built a plan around my death. I built a life around my survival, and mine is still growing. 2 years later, I ran into someone who knew us both. We were in the produce aisle. She froze when she saw me, like she'd seen a ghost. I heard what happened, she said quietly. I never imagined, neither did I. That's the strange thing about betrayal at that level. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. There are no warning labels. No soundtrack, just ordinary days stacked quietly on top of each other until one of them nearly ends you. She hesitated before asking, "How are you really?" Not the polite version, the real one. I thought about it. "I'm good," I said, and for the first time, it wasn't brave. It wasn't defiant, it was accurate. Life didn't magically transform into something cinematic. There wasn't some grand revenge empire or dramatic confrontation. There was just rebuilding. Slow mornings, stronger legs, clearer thoughts. I went back to school part-time, criminal psychology, not because I wanted to relive anything, because I wanted to understand it. How someone can sit across from you for years and quietly calculate your absence. The answer wasn't as mysterious as I once believed. Control, entitlement. Lack of empathy wrapped in charm, it's textbook. What isn't textbook is resilience. That part doesn't get enough attention. I started dating again eventually. Carefully, not fearfully, there's a difference. The first time someone made me tea, I noticed my body tense automatically. He noticed too. "I can make coffee instead," he offered gently. No defensiveness, no mockery, just adjustment. On the 3rd anniversary of the sentencing, I received another letter from prison. Different handwriting this time. His. I opened it, not because I needed closure, because I was curious. It wasn't an apology. It was anger, blame. He wrote that I'd ruined his life, that I could have handled things privately, that I embarrassed him. I folded the letter carefully, and I laughed. Not hysterically, not bitterly, just genuinely. Because even now, he still believed this was about him. I didn't respond. I don't need the last word. My existence is the last word. Sometimes people ask what the twist was, what the revenge turned out to be. There wasn't some dramatic public humiliation, no elaborate counter-scheme. The revenge was simpler. I survived. I testified, I rebuilt, he planned my funeral instead. I built a future, and every morning I wake up steady, unpoisoned, alive. That's the part he never accounted for. 5 years later, his name barely registers when I hear it. It shows up sometimes, usually in legal updates or prison transfer notices that get forwarded automatically because I am still listed as the victim in the system. Victim, the word doesn't sting anymore. It just describes a chapter, not the whole book. I finished my degree, graduated with honors. When I walked across that stage, I caught myself scanning the crowd out of habit, old reflex, looking for threats. There weren't any, just friends, a few colleagues. The detective who had first believed me, after the ceremony, she hugged me and whispered, "You look nothing like the woman in that hospital bed." She was right. That woman was surviving. This one was living. I started consulting with advocacy groups, helping design workshops about coercive control and medical gaslighting. We talked about patterns, isolation, subtle undermining, financial secrecy, small lies that build into structural doubt. People always want dramatic warning signs, but most danger arrives politely, smiling, helpful, holding a teacup. One evening, after a seminar, a young man approached me. He didn't look like the stereotype of a victim, confident, put together, but his hands were shaking slightly. He hides my medication, he said quietly, then tells me I forgot where I put it. That's the thing, control isn't gendered, it's patterned, and patterns can be interrupted. We talked for an hour. When he left, he stood straighter, not because I fixed anything, but because someone named it. Sometimes survival multiplies, and that might be the part I'm proudest of. Not that I lived, but that my living helps other people recognize when they deserve better. I don't check prison records anymore. If he writes, the letters are returned unopened, not dramatically burned this time, just returned. No forwarding address. I'm not hiding. I just don't know him space in my present. People sometimes ask if I ever got revenge. I always give the same answer. No, because revenge implies I centered him. I didn't. I centered me. And that made all the difference. There's a quiet kind of power in ordinary mornings. I wake up early now. Not because I'm afraid. Because I like the stillness. Sunlight through the blinds. The hum of the city stretching awake. I make tea every day. Same kettle, new one. The ritual doesn't scare me anymore. It grounds me. Steam rising. Water clear. No suspicion attached. If you had told me years ago that this would be the ending, not explosive, Not dramatic. Just steady. I wouldn't have believed you. Back then, survival felt like defiance. Now it feels like peace. He planned my ending carefully, mapped timelines, calculated doses, secured documents. He thought control guaranteed outcome. But life isn't a spreadsheet. People aren't expiration dates. And I was never as fragile as he calculated. The real twist? He reduced me to a number on an insurance policy, and I turned myself into a voice, a degree. Rebuild home. A future he doesn't get to access. There's no cinematic final confrontation, no last word monologue delivered across prison glass. Just this: I wake up, I breathe, I choose my day, and somewhere, in a place I no longer think about, a man once said, "She wasn't supposed to survive." He was wrong, and that's the only ending that matters.